Well, good morning, everybody. It's good again to be out here. Um, I was reading inside and I had come past a verse and I noticed there was two words in the verse that just sort of stood out to me. And when you get to the point of when you get tired and when you get, maybe the correct word would be when you get lazy, it's hard to continue. It's easy to get into a laxed time of life. I'm a diabetic, and diabetes makes you sort of lazy. You have to make yourself go. You have to make yourself be active. I get sores on my legs, and sometimes it takes weeks for them to heal. They get to the point of where they begin to feel a little rough, and that's where they're beginning to scab over. And when you want to rub it and you want to scratch it, they itch. And you can't scratch too deep or you'll make it bleed again. But that scratching basically is to help relieve. It feels good to the leg to scratch an area of where there was a sore, and you're getting a little bit more of that scab off, and you continue to rub that wound and you scratch. And sometimes, I will admit that if I rub that sore, that to keep me from getting sores or from me to keep getting scraped on stuff, I just find myself not doing anything. I find myself not getting in a situation of where I injure myself. I was taking out my briefcase out of under my desk in my office, and that briefcase had rubbed on my leg. Literally, I was taking it out from under and it went past my leg and it rubbed my leg. Well, that didn't hurt my leg, but it rubbed a piece of skin off about the size of a 1-inch square area. 1 inch long, 1 inch depth. And it takes forever to heal. So you have a tendency to don't do nothing. Don't go outside. Don't get around stuff. Don't fall. You have a tendency to stay where you're safe. Well, your activity level goes down. My eyes don't see as good as they used to. And when your focus is dimmer, your ability to be able to read is somewhat limited, that you don't want to read a lot. I was reading this morning in Matthew 24, and I got down about 15 verses, and my eyes was getting tired. I could tell. But then I flipped the Bible over to Acts chapter 2. And Acts chapter 2 is where I am today. And there was some words that was in a particular verse that I'm going to talk about that made me think. And the verse that I want to read, I'm going to start with verse 41, just to sort of keep it in context. I'm in Acts chapter 2, verse 41. Then they that gladly received his word were baptized. And the same day there were added unto them about 3,000 souls. Now, that verse in itself gives us a little bit of history of there was ones that believed and there was ones that were baptized. They believed and they was baptized. They received the word, and about 3,000 souls were added to the kingdom of God. But verse 42 is partly the verse that I want to discuss. And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine. They continued steadfastly. Now, I don't know that much about looking up words. I didn't look up the word steadfastly. But what came into my mind is people that is on a boat or a ship. You hear some of the people say steady as she goes. Steady. Well, I would want to think that steady as she goes is basically with very little reaction to the water. That you control the movement of the boat with the quickness of the motor. And when you say steady as she goes, then it would be basically to keep the ship as level as possible. And when I seen that word steadfast, I'm thinking, sometimes it's hard to stay steadfast. When you feel like that you've already believed the Lord, you believe his word, you believe what his word says, you're not arguing with the word, you believe what the word is saying, but then you get to the point of where you sit down and you're not active as much, and your eyes doesn't see as good, and your body doesn't feel like that you want to read, that there's times that I have to make myself read, because there's times that I just want to close my eyes and my mind meditates all the time, but my vision is limited. So therefore, it gives me an excuse to say, I don't want to read. But I don't ever want to get to the point where I don't pick up the word of God, because had I not picked up this word today, I wouldn't have been able to have found this verse and this topic to be able to talk about, because it says, and they continued steadfastly. Continuing to read, continuing to seek, continuing to learn, continuing to know, and then continuing steadfastly, meaning steady as she goes. See, the Lord, I don't believe, wants me to read all day long. I believe he wants me to read, and I believe he wants me to study the Bible, but I don't believe that he mandates that I spend 8 hours a day reading the Bible. Now, I enjoy reading the Bible, but there's times that when my body gets tired, and it's not because of overwork, it's because of the sugar. And that you allow yourself to sit in the chair because you know that if you get up and you go outside and you walk around and you get into this and you get into that and the other, then you start looking down at your legs and see that your legs are scarred up and you haven't done nothing. Your legs take on it's like a magnet to problems. I can't even go out in my field and take clippers to clip weeds off of the fence, because if I do, them weeds will scratch my leg. And sometimes my balance is not good, and it might be that I might fall down. The shoes that I wear is not real tight, and I might fall down. So it causes me to stay at the house and stay in the safety of the chair. But that's not being steadfast. But it says here, they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine. Now, the apostles was ones that these people, these 3,000 heard speak. And so no doubt they was hearing Peter and different ones speak. They was excited because they continued in the apostles' doctrine. They not only continued, but they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship. Sometimes when you don't feel like it, you can't be around a bunch of fellowship all the time. Some people might go and say, well, you're just doing it because you're lazy. Well, maybe that might be part of it, but it might be the fact that if you feel like you're going to fall, if you feel like you're going to scrape yourself getting in and out of the vehicle, I mean, let's face it, when a briefcase knocks skin off of your leg, it makes you where you don't want to touch nothing, because I don't heal good. My healing is the pits, because it'll stay on there for a week or two at a time until it finally begins to start healing. But it talks about being steadfast in fellowship and breaking of bread. Well, you know as well as I do that a diabetic that breaks bread, sometimes that can be his worst enemy, is food. I've gained weight since the virus because I'm more in the house. I'm not around people. I think last night was the first time I was around a crowd of people. I don't generally do that anymore. I usually stay right there at home. I was fellowshipping with a brother in the Lord. And that's the reason that I went to the place, is I was being with fellowship, like it says right here, breaking of bread and the prayers, it says. Well, I'll be honest with you. There's times that when you think that I'm a believer, and I'm telling myself, I'm a believer, but there's times then I neglect my prayer, or I neglect my prayer life. See, there's life in prayer, and I don't believe the Lord wants me to wait until a devastation comes in my life for me to all of a sudden turn on the prayer switch. I think he would rather hear me pray one sentence than to quit. And then at the time of when I need something, then I'll start back the praying. See, he mentions, it says, and in prayers, breaking the bread and in prayers. See, that's what helps us to be continued steadfastly. Continue is to come out here and still make a video, even when you don't think that nobody cares about it. You come out here and you still bring a message, even though that maybe you feel like that nobody's watching it. You still come out here and you bring a message. Just like the preacher on Sunday morning would get up and bring the message, he doesn't really know who all is going to take advantage of that message, but his focus should be on feeding the people. And only feeding the people. So many times we want the people to feed the minister instead of the other way around. It moves on. I'm going to skip over a couple of verses, but I'm down now in verse 46. And they, continuing daily with one accord in the temple. You notice that it says, and they continuing daily. Does the Lord want me to continue? Does he want me to continue steadfastly? That was a question I asked myself. If I don't get up from that recliner and come out here and open up this book and produce a video, then am I continuing steadfastly if there's a message that I need to deliver? See, the question that it asked me today, am I continuing steadfastly? Well, when you sit down and you're not doing a whole lot, you have to wonder if you're continuing. I'm not talking about, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about continuing to maintain salvation. I'm not talking about that continuing. I'm talking about continuing steadfast in prayers and fellowship and breaking of bread and following the apostles' doctrine. I'm sure that Paul probably wanted to throw in the towel many times. And there's times that I think about it, honestly. But part of me has to have that desire that I don't want to throw in the towel. I'd hate to know that I would throw in the towel at the end of the race, when the race is almost over. I mean, literally, the race, I believe, the finish line is in sight. Wouldn't it be so pitiful to know that I would stop running the race when the finish line is so close. So do I want to continue in the apostles' doctrine? Do I want to continue in the fellowship and the breaking of bread and in prayers? You know, I'm 62. I'll be 63 in November. You know, we're none of us promised tomorrow. I'm not. But do I want to continue daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house? Did eat their meat with gladness and singleness of heart. You know, the key words that I'm looking at is the word continuing daily. Continuing daily. Do I need to continue? You know, there's a lot of times if you're dependent on others to make you continue, then you might fall. Because it's not really the place of others to make me continue. It's the place of my desire to continue. There's going to be times when I'm going to be all alone and by myself. And there might not be nobody there to pep rally me up to continue. But part of you knows that you have to continue to keep producing a video, to keep producing a message. See, these messages help me as much as it helps other people that watches, because it allows me to be active. And when I see this word here, continuing daily, he wants me to continue. He don't want me throwing in the towel. And maybe we all need to be reminded that we need to continue. Continue. Just like it said over here in this verse. And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine. They continued steadfastly. Are you continuing to grow? Are you continuing to get more knowledge? Are you content of staying where you are? If you're content and staying where you are, then the likelihood is that your plant is not growing, not like you think. You need to be growing. I need to grow. I need to continue to read. I need to continue to stay faithful. The finish line is close. Elderly Ministry is the website. There you can go and get my phone number and call me. I would love to have a phone call. I don't know who hears the video. I love to communicate about God. It does me good. It helps me to continue. And you know, I reach out every time I make a video asking people to get with me, call me, email me, speak to me. There's a phone number there that is waiting on you. That there is the YouTube channel. And you can go to YouTube. Leave me a message when you call, and I'll return your call. Make sure you leave me your name and phone number. Share the video, share the platform. Subscribe to the channel if you would like. Thank y'all for watching.